be something. Like, that's what you have training camp for, and that's what you have the preseason games for, is to try different lineups and to try different people, and to give the people that are fighting for roster spots a chance to go out there and compete and perform. Like, I'm not going to go out and play 30 minutes on Saturday. That's just not going to be the case. That's not what it's about. It's, obviously I'm going to go out there and compete as hard as I can, but that's not what we need to do. And
there is a version of Caitlin Clark that the media spent years trying to sell you. The quiet one. The one who smiles politely into the camera, delivers a carefully rehearsed answer to the reporters circling her, and keeps her head down while everybody around her loudly debates whether she even belongs in the same conversation. That version? She is gone. Buried. Because the Caitlin Clark walking into 2026 has something to prove, a debt to collect, a point to make, a statement to deliver that no microphone and no headline can contain. And this time, she is not staying quiet about any of it.
Yeah, I think a little bit of off-the-ball stuff. Like, I think mostly on dead balls. Like, I think I'm the best transition player in the league. That's where I thrive. Everybody knows that's my game. So, getting the ball off of rebound or in transition, like, that's probably when I'm going to be the primary ball handler more than anything. And then, getting off the ball a little bit and catching your breath. Like, it is exhausting bringing the ball up 94 feet versus pressure every single time. So we certainly need to find somebody that can handle the ball a little bit and, give me a little bit of a break. And I think Raven and Ty and even other people through camp, Tori's done a great job. And, Kels does it a little bit. And even I think our 4s and 5s can do that. You saw AB do that a lot last year when we were really in trouble injury-wise. So I think there's a lot of different things that can give us a lot of different looks and just makes us harder to guard more than anything.
She has finally stepped forward, spoken her truth with a clarity that cannot be misread, and told the entire watching world exactly where she stands. And if you are a fan of women's basketball, or honestly just a fan of anyone who refuses to be buried alive by the weight of other people's narratives, you need to stop everything and hear every single word of this story. But before we get into what Caitlin Clark said and why it cuts so deeply into this particular moment, we have to go back and build the foundation. Because this did not ignite overnight. This has been smoldering quietly and dangerously for 2 full years. A'ja Wilson has been named WNBA MVP 4 consecutive times. She won 3 championships with the Las Vegas Aces. She was named Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year for 2025. And for the entirety of Caitlin Clark's existence in this league, Wilson and the army of supporters surrounding her have held one position with an almost religious, unshakable conviction. She is the greatest player in the WNBA. Full stop. No debate, no discussion, no room in the conversation for any other name. Case closed, door locked, and the key thrown away.
And this year, they have chosen another undeniable all-time great. Drum roll, please. Time 2025 Athlete of the Year, Columbia, South Carolina's very own A'ja Wilson.
Right, from God's country.
Yes.
Yeah. Look at that picture. Well deserved. The 29-year-old Vegas Aces center was the #1 draft pick in 2018. Since then, she has won 3 WNBA championships, 4 WNBA MVP awards, and 2 Olympic gold medals. And she is coming off a record-setting 2025 season, winning the WNBA championship, the finals, and regular season MVP, the league scoring title, and Defensive Player of the Year, all in the same season.
And here is the thing. On paper, Wilson's resume is nothing short of extraordinary. She is a once-in-a-generation talent, and nobody with any serious credibility is attempting to strip that away from her. But the WNBA has been transforming at a pace that nobody, not the analysts, not the executives, not even the players themselves, saw coming. And a seismic, undeniable portion of that transformation has been driven by one single name, Caitlin Clark. So when the conversation keeps pulling itself back, like a tide that cannot help returning to shore, to the question of who truly is the best player in this league right now, Wilson has not always been shy about where she stands. She has made her position known, repeatedly, publicly, without apology. And now, after 2 years of absorbing it all in near silence, the comparisons, the debates, the noise, the doubt, Caitlin Clark has decided she is done being the quiet one in that conversation. Neither has she.
I think mostly on dead balls. Like, I think I'm the best transition player in the league. That's where I thrive. Everybody knows that's my game. So, getting the ball off of rebound or in transition, like, that's probably when I'm going to be the primary ball handler more than anything. And then, getting off the ball.
Let us go back to 2024 first, because that foundation is not just everything, It is the only way any of what comes next makes any sense at all. Caitlin Clark arrived in the WNBA as the single, most anticipated, most scrutinized rookie in the entire history of this sport. She had shattered NCAA scoring records that had stood for decades. She had transformed college arenas into electric, sold-out cathedrals of women's basketball. She had dragged a level of national attention toward this game that nobody in this league had ever witnessed, had ever dared to imagine, had ever even dreamed was possible at this level. And what did she get in return for all of that? Players came for her, hard, immediately, relentlessly, not just with the kind of tough physical defense that tests every rookie who walks through that door, but with late hits that had no business being on a basketball court. Cheap shots delivered with intent. A sustained, coordinated effort to break her mentally and physically before she ever had the chance to find her footing, establish her identity, or prove to the world what everybody watching already knew she was capable of becoming.
In WNBA action this weekend, Caitlin Clark was shoved to the ground by Kennedy Carter when Indiana Fever faced off against the Chicago Sky. Caitlin talked about it after the game, but Kennedy had less to say about it. Take a look.
It is what it is. I feel like I'm just at the point where you accept it and don't retaliate. Just let them hit you. Be what it is. Don't let it get inside your head, and know it's coming. I think at this point, I know I'm going to take a couple hard shots a game, and that's what it is. It's just stay in the game and staying what's important.
Opponents ran entire defensive schemes with one singular, undisguised purpose: foul her, grind her down, and dismantle her mentally before she could ever fully arrive. The league investigated multiple incidents that had no comfortable explanation. Fans were not just furious. They were watching something unfold in real time that made them genuinely question what this league was willing to tolerate and who it was willing to protect. But through every single moment of it, through every cheap shot and every uncomfortable silence from the people who should have spoken louder, Clark kept her mouth shut, kept her head down, and kept playing. She won Rookie of the Year. She led Indiana in assists. She rewrote attendance records overnight like they were suggestions rather than history. And still, somehow, almost incomprehensibly, when award season arrived, certain voices found extraordinary ways to make it about anything and everything except her actual game. The credits she had plainly, undeniably earned were quietly redirected toward other names. The conversations she should have been standing at the center of were carefully steered away from her. That pattern was not subtle, it was not accidental, and it did not go unnoticed. Not by her, and not by a single person in that league paying even the most minimal amount of attention.
Yeah, well, I was talking to Steph a little bit, and I'm the person that doesn't want to sit out a single rep. I want to be in there every single time. I just love competing and I love playing, and none of that has changed, but I think just being a little bit smarter with my body and understanding what it takes. And I think especially through camp days, these days are really long. You're on the court 2.5, 3 hours and putting in a lot of stuff. So, taking care of my body at this point in the season is probably the most important thing. Whether that's recovery, whether that's pre-court treatment, whatever it is, I think it's those type of things. So, but like I said, I've never really sat on the sidelines before, so it's a very humbling experience. And
then came 2025. And if 2024 was brutal, 2025 was an entirely different species of painful. Clark dealt with injuries that did not just keep her off the floor. They kept her away from the moments she had sacrificed everything, her entire life, to compete in. She sat sidelined, watching games from the bench, or staring at replays from inside a recovery room, fully aware that every single day she was absent from that court was another day someone else was grabbing the pen and writing the narrative without her. Another day the conversation about who the best player in this league truly was kept moving forward, kept gaining weight and momentum, with her name conspicuously, painfully absent from the center of it. And yet, even buried inside that suffocating, frustrating year, Clark never stopped working. She trained through the darkness, she grew through the silence, and she paid ferociously close attention to every single word being spoken about her in and around this league. Who was saying it, how they were saying it, and what they were choosing not to say at all. She watched with cold, quiet clarity how quickly certain people moved to write her off the moment she showed any sign of vulnerability. She noticed which voices went completely silent when she needed support the most. And she noticed, with a precision that should terrify every single person involved, which ones seemed almost barely able to conceal their satisfaction when she struggled. She filed every single piece of it away, every word, every silence, every smirk hidden behind a carefully worded post. Because Caitlin Clark is not simply a basketball player wearing a number on her chest. She is a competitor carved from something most people in this league have never encountered up close. And competitors, real ones, the dangerous kind. Never forget, not a single thing.
Well, I mean, I think, speaking to last year, like obviously I was in about no reps because I wasn't playing.
Right.
So, you know, it's hard. It's very isolating to come to practice every single day and spend 2 hours getting treatment and rehab. And then, you know, you come out here and you have to show up and be the best teammate you can be. And I think that taught me a lot about what I can do if I'm not on the court. And, you know, I got to be their biggest fan. And I think that was a great experience for me because through a lot of my career, like everybody else was my biggest fan. And, you know, that doesn't mean I wasn't cheering for my teammates. It was like I was playing the most amount of minutes. I had the ball in my hands. And, you know, when you're not doing that, you have to find another way to impact the team. So, you know, I think I was able to do that and kind of help us and be as involved as I can. And, you know, I traveled to every single game but one just because of some rehab things that I was trying to get done to hopefully come back. But, yeah, I think just communicating really more than anything.
So here we are in 2026, and the atmosphere surrounding Caitlin Clark has shifted in a way that is impossible to ignore and impossible to fake. She arrived at training camp this year looking fundamentally, unmistakably different. Not just physically, though yes, she looked stronger, sharper, more sculpted by purpose and fury than anyone had seen her before. She looked different in a place that no camera can fully capture and no highlight reel can fully convey. She looked different mentally. There was no hesitation in her voice, no careful diplomatic tiptoeing around the topics that make people in this league uncomfortable. No rehearsed humility designed to keep the peace with the right people. When reporters asked her about her place in this league, about where she stands, about what she believes she is, she did not deflect. She did not retreat into a safe, forgettable non-answer. She looked directly into the camera with the kind of stillness that only comes from someone who has made a decision they are completely at peace with. And she said exactly what she believed. She made it unambiguously, uncomfortably clear that she considers herself one of the best players in this league. That she has earned that belief through everything she has survived and everything she has sacrificed. And that she intends to prove it on that court every single night of 2026 until there is no argument left to have. She acknowledged A'ja Wilson's accomplishments because Clark is not built to disrespect what someone has genuinely earned, but she drew a line in the same breath, a clear one, an unmovable one. She is not sitting back any longer. She is not allowing someone else's voice to define the ceiling above her head. Not this season, not ever again.
Caitlin Clark has literally made the league relevant. The amount of money that Caitlin Clark is generating on her own for the WNBA, as you can clearly say, is $1 billion. And that was the year she didn't hardly play. She was hurt most of her sophomore season in 2025. Whenever the Indiana Fever play any other team in the WNBA, the tickets skyrocket. They have to move arenas. Ticket sales go up, merch sales go up. The WNBA has not turned a profit since the league started almost 30 years ago. Quite literally, if it wasn't for the WNBA sucking the dicks off of the owner and the commissioner of the NBA, the WNBA would cease to exist.
Now let us be completely honest about why this moment carries a weight that reaches far beyond just two extraordinary players disagreeing about who deserves the top spot. The question of who is the best player in the WNBA has never, not for a single day of the past 2 years, been purely about basketball. It has never been that clean. It has never been that simple. It carries the accumulated, suffocating weight of 2 years of raw tension, of charged race conversations that made people deeply uncomfortable on every side, of media bias accusations, hurled in every direction, of fan bases on opposing ends treating every single interaction between Clark and Wilson like a war that is constitutionally required to produce a broken, humiliated loser. That framing has been toxic. It has been unfair to both of them in ways that deserve to be acknowledged honestly. But it has been especially disproportionately cruel to Caitlin Clark, because the argument being leveled against her was never simply, A'ja is the better basketball player. It was something far darker and far more personal than that. It was, Caitlin does not belong here. She does not deserve the credit she receives. She benefits from systems and structures and privileges that have nothing whatsoever to do with her actual ability to play this game. That is the accusation Clark has been absorbing in near silence for 2 full years. And that is precisely what she is now pushing back against with everything she has. Not with rage, not with manufactured drama designed for a headline, but with something far more devastating than either of those things. Absolute, unshakable, fully documented clarity. She has earned her place in this conversation. She has the numbers to bury the argument. She has the impact, shattering records on the court, rewriting commercial history off it, to make the case without ever raising her voice. And she is walking into this season with zero tolerance, zero patience, and zero intention of allowing anyone, to rewrite a story that she has already written herself, in ink that does not wash out.
This one of the reasons why they hate Caitlyn. Watch her lock him down. Watch her lock her down. Look, come here. I almost blocked it too. She ain't want to embarrass her like that. Look. And see, you supposed to rebound it and pass the ball. Come here. Here's another reason. You hear that? You hear the whole arena. That's another reason why they hate. And I can keep going on and on for more reasons of why they hate, like they not better than her. But you know how hard it's got to be to you play against somebody. You open your phone, you see them. You look at the TV, you see them. Your family members talking about them. Your friends talking about them. The fans, when you go around and people see you or want to take pictures of you, what is it like playing against Caitlyn Clark?
And the fans, they did not just hear her, they felt her. The moment Clark began speaking in that direct, unapologetic, completely unfiltered tone, social media did not simply react. It detonated. Voices flooded every platform simultaneously, all saying variations of the same thing. That this was the moment they had been waiting for, that this was the Clark they always knew was in there, that it was long past time. People who had spent 2 painful years watching her absorb hit after hit, literally on the court, figuratively everywhere else, without ever receiving the full, unqualified recognition she had plainly earned, felt something shift deep in their chest. Something that had been wound tight for a very long time finally released. Because there is something visceral, something almost indescribably satisfying, about watching someone you have believed in through the darkness finally stop making herself smaller than she is, and start inhabiting every single inch of the space she has already earned the right to occupy. This is not a manufactured controversy cooked up for engagement. This is not a media trap that Clark stumbled into without seeing it coming. This is a player who spent 2 full years watching, absorbing, cataloging, and processing every slight, every omission, every moment of being quietly, deliberately undervalued, and who has arrived at 2026 having made a decision that is calm, unshakable, and completely without apology. The first 2 versions of Caitlyn Clark earned something. They fought for it, survived for it, and never fully received it. The 2026 version has decided, with a quietness that is somehow louder than anything she could have shouted, that she is done waiting to be given what was always already hers.
I think USA basketball was really good for me to kind of get back out there and get my feet under me, and you're playing with the best players in the world, so I don't think there was a better setting for me to kind of just get back into it and be surrounded by really good people. And when you're in that type of competitive setting, first of all, there's no better setting to be in, and second of all, it brings out the best in you. You want to rise to the level of the people around you, and then you also want to beat them, and then you get on the court and get to compete with them as your teammates. So I have a long ways to go to continue to get better, and I think that's the exciting part. This is the beginning of year 3, but like I said, I've only played 60 games, I think it is. I might be a little off there, but and only appeared in 2 playoff games, so I got a ways to go.
Let us talk about what that actually looks like on the floor. Because the statement Clark is making in 2026 is not confined to words spoken into a microphone. It is physical. It is visceral. It is written into every drill, every game rep, every early morning sprint she is putting into the ground before this season has even officially begun. People who have been inside the gym with her this offseason are not describing a player who is recovering. They are not describing a player who is rebuilding. They are describing a player who looks like she has been caged for 2 years and has finally heard the door swing open. Her shot mechanics are as pure, as effortless, as devastatingly precise as they have ever been at any point in her career. Her court vision, already operating at a level most players in this league will never reach, looks somehow sharper, somehow more surgical. Her conditioning looks completely rebuilt, completely reimagined after the injury frustrations that stole last season from her before she could fully claim it. She is not arriving in 2026 to survive the conversation. She is not arriving to participate in it. She is arriving to end it. And that energy, that locked-in, barely contained, quietly ferocious competitive intention, is precisely what makes the question of who the best player in this league truly is so impossibly, so urgently relevant right now. Because A'ja Wilson spent years constructing the bar. She built it high. She built it with legitimate greatness, and nobody serious is denying that. But Caitlin Clark is not coming into this season with her eyes fixed on reaching that bar. She is coming to put her hands around it, lift it off its foundation, and carry it somewhere nobody else in this league can follow.
This is from like 1990s. Right. If some of you don't make it, don't be mad at me. They're not gonna bite.
It's nice to be in a skate firm.
Hold on, it's got a flash. Let me do one more. That light in the back.
What makes this moment even more electrifying, even more genuinely dangerous for the rest of this league, is what is standing around her. The Indiana Fever have not just assembled a roster, they have built something with a heartbeat, something with a purpose. The group surrounding Clark heading into 2026 is tighter, tougher, and more deliberately constructed than anything this franchise has ever put on a floor before. With players around her who are not just talented, but completely, unconditionally bought in, Clark does not have to carry every suffocating burden alone anymore. She does not have to claw for every inch of respect with her fingernails, while the people who should be protecting her look the other way. When the games turn physical, and they will, and opponents reach back into that same tired, embarrassing playbook of trying to rattle her, wear her down, and dismantle her mentally before she can find her rhythm, she now has a group of women in Fever jerseys who have made one thing abundantly, unmistakably clear. They are not watching from the sideline while that happens. Not this year, not anymore. That support structure is not a small thing. It is not a footnote. It is everything. Because Caitlin Clark playing free, playing with the unshakable confidence of someone who knows without question that the people beside her will not flinch. That version of Caitlin Clark is not just difficult to stop. She is genuinely, historically, categorically unstoppable. And every single person in this league who has spent the last 2 years dedicating energy to dimming her light is about to discover that truth in the most public, most humiliating, most permanent way imaginable.
You know, I wanted to be in every single rep, so I think whether I'm in every single rep or I'm, sitting a rep out, like just being on the sidelines, helping them the best I can, it's not been a direct conversation of like, this is what you can do or can't do. I'm 100% cleared, I'm 100% go. Obviously you saw that at USA, I've been playing pickup as live as I playing live all the time. Eventually skill workouts get a little bit boring, so you just want to play and play and play. So I think it's just being smart, like no need to overdo it at this point. But I think when I'm not in every single rep, I think it's a great leadership opportunity for me to help the younger people as well.
So here is where it all lands. Here is where every thread of this story pulls itself together into something that cannot be ignored, cannot be dismissed, and cannot be rewritten by anyone with an agenda. Caitlin Clark is not firing back at A'ja Wilson because she is consumed by anger. She is not raising her voice because she is desperate for attention or validation from people who were never going to give it to her anyway. She is speaking up because she has spent 2 full, grueling, character-defining years being told, directly and indirectly, loudly and quietly, through words and through deliberate, pointed silence, to wait her turn. To be grateful for the space she was allowed to occupy. To not rock a boat that was never built with her in mind. To stand politely in the background and let someone else hold the title of best player while she assembled her case like a defendant. Trying to earn a verdict that should have never been in question. And she has looked at all of that. Every slight, every dismissal, every carefully constructed narrative designed to keep her ceiling low. And made a decision that is as calm as it is earth-shaking. This is not who she is. She respects the history of this league with everything she has. She respects the women who bled to build it into something worth fighting for. But she also knows, with a certainty that does not require anyone else's approval, exactly what she brings to a basketball court, what she has already accomplished in just 2 seasons. and what she is fully, terrifyingly capable of when she is healthy, confident, and completely finally unleashed. She is not asking permission to be great. She has never needed permission. She is not standing at the door, waiting for a unanimous vote that was never coming. She is walking through that door, through the 2026 WNBA season, as someone who has already done every piece of the work, already earned every inch of the stage, and is now prepared to perform on it in a way that leaves not a single syllable of room for debate. The best player conversation in this league is no longer a settled question whispered behind closed doors. It is wide open. It is loud. It is alive in a way it has never been before. And Caitlin Clark has just made one thing violently, irreversibly, undeniably clear. She is not a supporting character in this story. She has never been a supporting character in this story. She is the main event. She has always been the main event.